What's up, everybody? This is Scott from nightlight.com, and it's time for another hard and heavy 70s. This time it's going to be 1974. So far I've done 75 through 78. Still got to do 79, and then of course 1970 through 74. And we're going to kick out 74 today. Going to start off with this compilation on Warner Brothers from 1974. This is not going to be in my 20 list. This is just one I wanted to show because I often get people to argue with me that heavy metal didn't exist till the 80s or till late 80s, late 70s. Baloney. Heavy metal started in about 1969, 1970 with bands like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and then into the early 70s with Judas Priest and Budgie. There were so many great releases in the early 70s that were heavy metal. Is everything on this compilation metal? No. Definitely not. Heavy metal hadn't really totally been defined yet. Hard rock and heavy metal were basically the same thing. Anything with a loud guitar pretty much was getting defined as heavy metal in the early 70s. Yeah, a lot of bands on here belong on here. Black Sabbath, sure. Deep Purple, absolutely. Foghat, maybe. Zeppelin, absolutely. But then you've got stuff on here. Uriah Heep, another good one. But then you've got stuff on here like the Allman Brothers. No, not at all. Yes, no, not at all. So anyhow, like I said, it hadn't been yet defined completely. But this is just one bit of proof that heavy metal was a valid form of music in the 70s. And it wasn't just in the 80s that it came about. I've said it before and I'll say it again right now. There had to be a first wave of heavy metal for there to have been a new wave of heavy metal in the 80s. So, with that said, let's get to number 20. Foghat, Energized. Yeah, American boogie rock, heavy guitars, heavy rock and roll. I don't know what to say about this one. Honestly, I almost left this one out in favor of Hawkwind Hollow Mountain Grill. This one made it in over Hollow Mountain Grill because I don't have Hollow Mountain Grill. Thought I did. Don't. So anyhow, number 20 is Foghat, Energized. Like I said, it's good heavy rock and roll. I love Foghat. Energized is not necessarily my favorite Foghat record, but it is a very good Foghat record. Lots of heavy guitars, bit of groove, blues influences. Yeah, exactly what you expect from Foghat in the 1970s. So, and number 19, Nectar, Down to Earth. This really was a concept album by the German-English prog rockers, heavy prog. Nectar, of course, starting in Germany and then becoming mostly an English progressive rock band. And this album is, I'm not going to say it's heavy metal. It's not heavy metal. It barely qualifies as hard rock, but it was definitely heavy prog, and definitely this one's not a fan favorite, but I quite enjoy this record. Of course, it's all about circus and all that kind of oddity stuff and freaks and whatnot. So, Nectar, Down to Earth, 1974. Ah. One of the first wave of British heavy metal bands, Uriah Heep, Wonderworld. Classic Uriah Heep album, heavy guitars, heavy organs. I know people don't think of organs when they think of heavy metal, but in the 70s, bands like Deep Purple and Uriah Heep, they just had that heavy organ sound, that Hammond organ sound, and yeah, this album has that classic record. Sorry about the glare we're getting on some of the records tonight, but yeah, Uriah Heep, Wonderworld. Great record. First wave of British heavy metal. I don't usually show these kind of records, but I'm going to this time around because Alice Cooper Greatest Hits. Not a big fan of Greatest Hits collection, but this is a superb collection. Not only because it has just some great songs from the original Alice Cooper band, but also has just killer artwork. I've always thought this was just a great cover with all the celebrities all over it, with the Alice Cooper band, and yeah, this is one of those albums I just remember when I got it as a kid. I listened to it over and over and over again. Heavy metal? No, probably proto metal, hard rock, but just very, very good record. 1974, Alice Cooper Greatest Hits. Gotta reach down a little further. The next one, I didn't actually have on vinyl. It's one of the few I don't have by this band on vinyl. This is Nas, Rampant. And this is actually one of those little mini covers with the CDs in it and the little sleeves and everything, which I think are really cool. This is a gatefold. It's actually a trifold, I guess you call it, with the CD and a booklet. In any case, yeah, this album didn't, wasn't chock full of hits like some of the other Nazareth records, which actually makes it a better listen for me. Not a big fan of listening to the hits that I've been playing a million times, but this is a fairly heavy record for Nazareth. It does have some of the more acoustic moments on it. Nazareth always mixed it up. They were never, solidly heavy band. They had their moments, but this album's kind of in the middle, has a mixture of both. Fantastic release by Nazareth. I'm gonna go kind of quick because I have 20 albums to show. Don't want this to be a 30 to 40 minute video. So next up, Blue Oyster Cult, Secret Treaties. Career of Evil, Subhuman, Dominance and Submission. The first 3 tracks alone are worth the price of admission on this one. This right here, that's US heavy metal circa 1974. Just fantastic release. Don't know what else to say about it. Great guitar solos, great guitar work, just intriguing lyrics and fantastic vocals. Yeah, it's Blue Oyster Cult, and it's part of that classic era of Blue Oyster Cult. Those first 3 albums that they released are just some of their best work ever, in my opinion. Next one is actually playing in the background. Deep Purple, Burn. This is the Mach 3 era lineup with David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. And personally, I love Ian Gillan. He's one of my favorite vocalists. But Glenn Hughes is an awesome vocalist in his own right. He's very different from Ian Gillan and from what they had before this. But he's just he has such a soulful voice. Very different from Gillan. Gillan could scream and he could sing like with just had a grit and a grind. Gillan just, to me, was heavy metal personified in the 1970s. Glenn Hughes, more soulful, very bluesy, very different band. But this release right here, still one of their very best. I absolutely love this album. Title track is just one of the best ever. And then, of course, Mistreated has been played a million times by, Deep Purple, and then also Rainbow and Dio kept that song alive as well in his live sets through the from the 80s on. So yeah, 1974, Richie Blackmore, John Lord, Rainbow. Deep Purple, not Rainbow. Little European pump or pop rock. This album is probably one of Sweet's heaviest. Sweet, Desolation Boulevard. This one has a couple of different variations on the cover and I believe on the track listing as well. This is the American pressing, which is the only one I've ever actually heard. I've owned this one since I was young, and it's just one of those albums you play it over and over and over again. Probably the most well-known song in here, of course, is Ballroom Blitz. But I was thinking Action was on here, but that's the wrong album. Action's one of their heavier songs. But Ballroom Blitz was the big single off this one that every heavy metal band in the world has covered. Crocus actually had a hit with it in the 80s. So the Sweet Desolation Boulevard, excuse me. Crank it through them. Try and keep it under about a minute apiece. Queen 2. Yes, Queen. This is a heavy record for 74. This is that Thomas Baker, Roy Thomas Baker production. Has all the classic Queen elements, but it has those heavy guitars by Brian May. One thing about Brian May you can say is he had his own sound and his own style. You could hear a Brian May guitar solo and you knew it was Brian May, from the style of the guitar solo right down to the tone of his guitars. And that's one of the reasons I love Queen so much. Of course, Freddie Mercury's signature vocals, and just a great album, just a great release. I'm trying to think if there's any hits on this one or not. I don't think there was any huge hits on this one that I can remember. I'm not seeing any that I remember. But like I said, don't care really about hits. It's not hits for me. It's all about the album. I like to hear an album from front to back, and this is one of those albums that's just solid from beginning to end. I remember getting a magazine, which I still have, Grooves magazine, had a battle between Aerosmith and Queen for the heavy metal crown, and I don't know who won the heavy metal crown. Doesn't matter. Both were great bands. This is a great release. So Queen 2, 1974. Crank it through it. Michael Schenker, UFO, another first wave of British heavy metal band. Of course, Schenker was German, but UFO were British. Starting off as a space rock band, then moving to heavy metal on this release. This was actually like more like a, I don't want to say crossover or a, I don't know, it was just had a little bit of both on there, you know. Schenker really helped them refine their sound, and this record has some of those classic songs from them, but it also has some kind of more spacey stuff too. Dr. Doctor is Rock Bottom, two, you know, rock staples that were played at all their shows. But then you got other stuff on here like Crystal Lights and Lipstick Traces and Queen of the Deep that were just very different, you know, from what from the heavy metal that they became in the 70s. Still, great record. Phil Mogg, Pete Way, Michael Schenker, great stuff. Moving on. Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs, easily one of Robin Trower's best albums. The title track alone is worth the price of admission. This album is fantastic. Of course, you know, Trower is our Hendrix prodigy. People often say he, you know, emulated or copied Hendrix's style. Whatever. I think Trower had his own style. He had a great guitar sound as well. And actually, that's where their heaviness comes from. Is that growling guitar sound that he had. But yeah, this is just an awesome album. I'm a big fan of Robin Trower, but in particular this album, this belongs to any rock collection, regardless of whether you're into hard rock or heavy metal. If you're into blues, if you're into, you know, the Hendrix style of hard rock from the 60s, Robin Trower belongs to your collection, especially Bridge of Sighs. First album for Rush, Canadian trio, that power trio that, you know, one of the biggest bands in the world, still to this day. This 1974 release was pre-Neil Peart, and I forget the name of the drummer that was on this record. John Rutsey was the original drummer, and you can see him pictured here in the middle. And this was the one and only album he played on, and was replaced by Neil Peart. And there was a hit on this one, Working Man. That's probably one of their more well-known early songs. It still gets played on FM radio. I still hear it when I'm working out at the gym. I hear that song on the radio all the time. So, classic record from Rush. Their first, 1974. Kind of very Led Zeppelin-y, very pre. They don't have that prog sound yet that they got once Neil Peart joined. It has a big Zeppelin groove to it. A band from the 70s that were huge in the 70s, but are almost, I'm not going to say forgotten, but not nearly remembered as big as they were. Grand Funk, Mark Farner, and this classic album, Shining On. It came with those 3D glasses that you could pop out of the sleeve, and you can put it on. You can see all the little 3D elements all over this record. And this one, I believe this was a gatefold that had all the stuff on the inside you could look at too. It was just a sleeve I'm thinking of that you could look at. Yeah, it was a sleeve. So it had this little 3D poster you could look at with the glasses. And custom Grand Funk label. And of course this album had a huge hit on it. And if I would have, you know, bothered to research this stuff before I just started spouting out on this video, I know what that was, but I'm pretty sure I do. I just want to make sure before I say it. Yep. Locomotion was the huge hit on this one. I knew there was one. I just couldn't remember what it was off the top of my head. Not very funky song, very poppy song, but just still a good hard rock album, despite that song. Next up, German heavy metal band Scorpions, and this is some early Scorpions record. This is, you know, Scorpions is another band that kind of started off little very 60s influenced space rock kind of stuff, and they kind of came into their own with this one. They got, you know, Speedy's Coming is on here, and What else is on here that's heavy? And and the title track, "Fly to the Rainbow." Uriah Roth. It's just, I mean, he just rips on "Fly to the Rainbow." Just, I mean, he must have gone through 20 whammy bars on that one song alone, just destroying his guitars as he was recording this song. I saw Uriah Roth once, and I can't remember what song he was playing, but he was on his Sky guitar playing at the club, and he was just cranking and cranking on that, and just snapped right off. And he just stops and he keeps playing. It was just awesome. So anyhow, yeah. And what's that do with this record? Nothing. But anyhow, Scorpions, "Fly to the Rainbow," 1974, classic hard rock, heavy metal. And we're getting to the bottom here. Another Hendrix prodigy, Frank Marino. And Child of Novelty record. Always thought this was a great cover. It's one of the covers you can just look at for hours and find things in. First two, before this one, he had a sound that was very Hendrixy. I think on Child of Novelty he started coming into his own, really developing his own sound. Frank Marino was, and yeah, Frank Marino, Child of Novelty. I think this is a gatefold too. Let's take a look real quick because I'm pretty sure it is. Blake sleeves. I like them. They look good, but they're kind of a pain in the neck. There you go. Yeah, classic record. All right, we're getting to the last 5 or 6 here. Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes, Tooth, Fang, and Claw. Still, Ted Nugent before his solo stuff still had a lot of 60s influences, and that was definitely heard on this one. So you can still hear a lot of psych and 60s pop, but he really started getting heavy on this one. And classic songs like "Hibernation" and of course "Great White Buffalo" were on this record. Of course, they were more well known for their versions on Double Live Gonzo, which came out in '78, I think. But this '74 record, one of the Amboy Dukes' best. Of course, it was really, like I said in past videos, Ted Nugent was the alpha male in the Amboy Dukes, and by this record, it was very well known. It was Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. I believe this is number 5. Judas Priest, "Rock-a-Rolla." Very different record for Judas Priest than what they would become known for. Not quite as heavy and dark as what they were. A lot of bluesier influences, but still a great record. And a song like "Deep Freeze" and what else? "Cheater." And there's another song I'm thinking of here. "Never Satisfied." "Never Satisfied" is probably the closest they got to that. To the sound that they're known for on this record. Otherwise, it's more bluesy influenced than just straight up hard rock, which was fantastic for '74. Very Sabbath influenced as well. The guitars aren't kind of as heavy and deep as Sabbath would have, but they would get there on that next release. So, kind of a combination of Zeppelin and Sabbath is what this is here. Judas Priest, "Rock-a-Rolla." 4 left. Sorry, 3 left. So that was number 4, so this is number 3. Aerosmith, "Get Your Wings." Aerosmith's second record, and a fairly heavy record for Aerosmith, especially, what am I thinking of here? "Train Kept A-Rollin'," which is of course a cover, which was basically lifted from the Yardbirds, who had lifted it themselves, but Aerosmith's cover was definitely influenced by the Yardbirds cover, and of course that song's been covered by a million other bands. Motorhead actually played that song quite a bit in the '70s as well, and other songs on here. "Same Old Song Dance" was kind of a hit for the band, especially once it was put onto the greatest hits. "Lord of the Thighs," "Spaced" has a kind of just that melodic edge. Love that song. "Woman of the World," same thing. "Seasons of Wither," just it's a fantastic record, and I bought 2 pressings. I have several pressings of this one, but this is actually a repressing. You can see the yellow wings. Original pressings have the metallic gold wings. So if you can kind of see the difference here. If I can, there you go. So first and second pressing, classic record, 1974 Columbia Records for Aerosmith. And we're getting up there now, so Number 2, Desolation, Nightlight. Before this record, they kind of had a lot of that Irish folk mix into their sound, and they were kind of that power trio influenced by Jimi Hendrix Group and of course Cream. By this time, they were a 4-piece band. They had that twin guitar going on, and it was kind of a, again, I don't know if I'm going to say crossover or in between record, but there was some of the old sound mixed in, but it was mostly the newer sound that they would become known for. And this song has Sha La La and which is just make sure I said the right song. But yeah, the song has Sha La La, which was one of their concert staples. Always had a great drum solo in it. Brian Downey from Thin Lizzy is one of the underrated drummers of the 70s, in my opinion. One of the first drummers to actually, use that steady double bass. Anyhow, yeah, Thin Lizzy, Nightlife. Showdown's on here. Philomena, which of course was an ode to Phil's mom. Nightlife, the classic cover track. She Knows, yeah, it's a classic Thin Lizzy record. So, and number 1, and this is going to be surprising for nobody. Kiss, the classic debut from Kiss, and this is absolutely one of my favorite records of all time. Love Kiss, and I love this record. Pop songwriting, pop hooks, heavy riffs, raw guitar recording, and I think the raw recording actually helps this out. Sometimes studios overproduce albums and they kind of lose their edge, and this one has lots of edge. Black Diamond, 100,000 Years, and the original pressing of this, which this is short in one song, and I can show you right. See if I can find it here. Make sure I have more than one pressing of this, so I just want to make sure I got the right one here. Yeah, it's missing. So if you look at the track listing right here, it's got one less song than most pressings have, because later pressings, Kissing Time was added, which was actually a single first and then was added to later pressings of the first album. This happens to be a first pressing, doesn't have it. So, yeah, Kiss, 1974. And that's it. So I cranked through that pretty fast. Hopefully it was, a fairly good list. I want to thank my friend Vince, who sent me his list of top 70s for albums too, so I can make sure I didn't leave anything off of mine like I have in the past. So really appreciate you helping me out there, Vince, and just double checking on me. And that's it for this edition of Hard and Heavy 74. God bless. Stay strong.